The James Show Podcast.
Look, I enjoy the idea of a government shutdown, and for the 48 hours or whatever that the people are actually going to be furloughed, I will take this small little taste of victory, because that's all we get around here. And then there's going to be a compromise that's reached, and government will grow again. And that'll be the end of the fun. And then we'll be right back in the status quo where we have all the Joe Biden spending levels minus a couple of fringe cuts that were made in the one big, beautiful bill. And I hate how this is even being presented to you as some sort of compromise. This is like a compromise. What if your wife came home to you and she's like, hey, what would you rather me do? Cheat on you with two guys or one guy? I mean, that's the compromise, but you're still getting cheated on, right? This is what we're facing in D.C. Do you want a $2 trillion annual deficit and 3% inflation, or do you want a $2.2 trillion deficit and 4% inflation? It's not really a compromise if both parties want to grow government. In fact, you don't even have the choice. I would be thrilled to see what would happen if the American people actually got to vote for someone who would cut government. I would be thrilled to see what happened if government actually got cut and then we went to the ballot box after that and we see who got rewarded and got punished. Because you haven't even had the chance in your entire life to go vote for someone who wants to reduce the size of government. You have one party of big government and one party of bigger government. So I don't want to hear anything about threat to democracy. People, stop it. This is more of a threat to democracy than anything that's being called a threat to democracy. And look, I'm not an anarchist. I don't think we should have no government. I just think government should be limited. Call me crazy, to the bounds that were drawn up in the Constitution. The founding fathers would disagree with both of these budget proposals, Republican and Democrat. The founding father would see this and say, why are we spending any dollars on anybody's medical care? Not just illegals, even legals, even citizens. The government was never intended to help you out with your medical bills. The government was never intended to help you out with your cost of education or with your housing or with your Section 8 or with any of these goofy programs, with your retirement pensions. Milton Friedman spelled it out. Government really only has 4 honest functions it should be doing.
I'm not an anarchist. I believe in a government, but a limited government. And the government should be limited, in my opinion, to very simple functions. Number 1, to defending the country against foreign enemies. I have tried for a long time to see how to make national defense a private enterprise, and I have never succeeded. It's easy to see how to privatize schooling, but I don't know how to privatize national defense. A second function of government, and one which it performs very, very badly, is to protect the individual citizen against abuse and coercion by other citizens, to keep you from being hit over the head, mugged on the street, your house broken into, and so on. And I believe that the government performs that function very ineffectively because it's doing so many things it has no business doing. The third function of government, a very important function, is to define the rules of the game we play. What's private property? If an airplane flies 10,000 feet over your house, is he violating your private property? If he flies 10 feet over your house, is he violating your private property? There's nothing natural about where the line should be drawn. So we have to have some mechanism for making the rules about that, and that is an appropriate government function. And fourth, it's appropriate for government to provide a mechanism for adjudicating disputes about the meaning of those rules, a judicial system. Those are the 4 essential functions of government, in my opinion, and those are the only functions that are essential. There may be some other areas in which, if you started with nothing more than that, government might conceivably do more good than harm. But from where you are now, if you could only move back in that direction, it'd be marvelous.
Love me some Milton Friedman. Okay, we continue with Don from Flower Mound, who was actually dazzling me with some pretty good ideas in the last segment, so we held him over for this segment. So, Don and Flower Mound, with the extra context I've given you, continue, please. What would be your solutions, and how do we get to a better system of governance?
Okay, so I tried to make the point that the uninformed are not paying attention. They're not listening, right? They're not hearing even the cogent arguments that are coming forward. The way you make them feel the pain and have a stake in it is you go to some of these big hospital or all of these big hospital groups, United Healthcare, whoever else, And you say, hey, listen, if you want to have access to Medicare dollars and the patients that bring those dollars in, we need you to do two things. The first thing is we're going to set a maximum number of people that you can see per day, and we're going to base that on, quote unquote, quality of care.
Okay.
And then we're going to make you keep track of how many of those patients you saw that are legal immigrants and those that are illegal, and you need to post it on the door to the emergency room and post it on the front page of your website. And then let the people who come in at 4:30 in the afternoon who can't get in that day because they've already seen their quota go, wait a minute, they saw 12 illegal aliens today, but they can't see me, a tax-paying citizen. And that's when people will start paying attention. And the thing that's great about that is you can do that by executive order because that's administrative.
No, man, but that's more government, and that's not going through like Congress to pass the laws that we all got to live by. So this is just a law by dictate. You know, you're dictating laws there. I don't like that. I mean, it might work. I just, principle speaking, I don't like that. And we're trying to do something like that in Texas. We passed the law 2 years ago saying that you have to put a box on the form to check if you're legal or illegal. And we already have some problems. We have a bunch of doctors here in Texas who got on TikTok and they're like, I'm telling my patients they don't have to fill out that box, especially if they're illegal. And so we're not getting real reporting requirements or whatever. And I don't think more government is the solution.
If you don't want to play by those rules, then you don't have access to those Medicare dollars. I mean, that's easy. What I'm talking about would shrink in that scenario. More people that don't play by the rules don't get access to those dollars. I'm actually shrinking government.
All right. Well, that's closer to what here's what I want. How about just no Medicaid? How about just no Medicare?
Well, amen. Yeah. Amen.
Well, if that's what you believe, then stop making compromises. Make them compromise their principles for 5 seconds.
I agree with you.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's worth hearing you out. Thank you very much, Don and Flower Mound. At least you're throwing ideas out there. I appreciate that. Don's a thinker. Give him credit for that. The senators have been told they can leave town, so the shutdown will last until at least Friday. Okay, I'll take it. Small victory. Because the longer this government stays shut down, the better. I hope this lasts for like a month. Because after a couple weeks, we're all going to look around and say, you know what? This really doesn't affect my life. Leave that whole damn thing shut down. And again, I really despise the use of the term shutdown when 80% of the federal workforce is still going to work. We've cut about 20% of the workforce deemed non-essential workers, which we all slap our forehead and every time say, well, why do they ever come back? Why do we have any non-essential workers in the federal government? So I guess we could get some small victories out of this. It's not going to balance the budget or change your life. If we can get this to drag out a little bit, and then Donald Trump talks about laying off federal workers if they stay gone too long, if the government shut down too long. Okay. I guess that's the best we can hope for, because neither side seems very serious about balancing the budget or reducing the size of government or even keeping it at the status quo. Both sides want to grow it. One side wants to grow it a little bit more. And I guess they have to find some reason to argue with it. I think they were going to fight Donald Trump on the budget no matter what he did. But listen to this back and forth. This is Caitlin Collins and Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House of Representatives, a Republican, on CNN yesterday. And this is supposedly about health care for illegals, which in the same breath, Democrats are saying it's against the law to spend more money on health care for illegals while supporting these policies that would spend more money on health care for illegals. It's confounding stuff, but check this out. This was just last night.
We're rolling the greatest hits on our social media.
Yeah, I'm just saying that the point about giving people who are here illegally health care is not exactly what is in their proposal.
No, it is 100% what their proposal.
Immigrants who have legal status, and you're just
Caitlin,
disagreeing on who's eligible. I looked at it, actually, because I was curious about your argument yesterday.
You should study the CBO's analysis that they just put out a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I saw that about the 1.2 million people. You're basically arguing about who has legal status, people who are seeking refuge here or seeking asylum.
No, I'm making sure that we are making sure in our provisions that we sign into law have ensured that health care benefits go only to eligible U.S. citizens. Chuck Schumer's proposal.
You know what? Both of your parties are disgusting. Isn't that from Romeo and Juliet? A plague on both your houses, or a pox on both of your houses after Tybalt stabs Mercutio? That's how I feel right now. A plague on both of your houses. Both of you want health care for illegals. Caitlin, don't lie. You like health care for illegals, and no one's trying to really get rid of it. Mike Johnson, don't lie. You're not trying to get rid of health care for illegals. You're just trying to trim at the edges. Because both Democrats and Republicans are continuing this idea that any illegal immigrant can walk into an emergency room and get covered and get Medicaid, get you to pay for it. When they say Medicaid pays for it, or when they say it's covered, that means you're getting the bill. So no, neither one of you are acceptable in my eyes. You got Mike Johnson, who wants to continue giving them free medical care at your expense. And you got Caitlin that wants to spend even more money on illegal immigrant health care at your expense. Both of you people are terrible. Both of your parties are terrible. Unacceptable. And this is what the shutdown's over. Fine, stay shut down. I hope it stays shut down for the rest of my life. I know that's not going to happen. In fact, they'll probably work out a deal on Friday, but I guess we'll take what we can get in the meantime. 800-288-9227. Meet. Oh, hey, look, it's Richard and Richardson. You have an easy to remember name, sir. Richard and Richardson.
Hey, thanks, James.
Hey.
Listen, I agree with you on just about everything you say.
But this one?
What are you? No. This one is good. But they're the uniparty. They're all the same. I voted for Donald Trump 6 times. I can't vote any harder. He has the Congress and he has the Senate. He has both of them. Not one of his executive orders have they turned into law. Not one of them. Okay? He's done nothing. He said he was going to get rid of the IRS. He has both houses. They've not even brought it up. There's a guy named Jeffrey Epstein who is supposedly dead, who apparently has something on everyone there because, it was really good fodder when he was running for office to say, yeah, we're going to release all that information. They're not going to release any of it.
Yeah, I doubt Epstein's playing into this because you don't need to come up with some sort of conspiratorial inspiration for people to want to grow their own power. That's just been a natural of human instinct going all the way back to the dinosaurs pretty much. But, man, I really thought you were going to throw a butt in there somewhere.
Well, the only thing I've heard of change was the Convention of States to try and hold some of these people's feet to the fire, make a balanced budget, do this. You don't have to balance a budget if you're the people printing the money.
Right.
That's why they don't balance a budget. They print the money. But the Convention of States started around 2010, maybe longer than that. I don't know. I got involved in it and said, yes, we're gonna hold their feet to the fire. And it's still just, every couple of years you'll hear of another state jumping on board. But I don't know why everybody can't get involved in it and make some changes to the Constitution. But I do know why nothing changes. And the only thing changed in 1776 was by the tip of a spear or the barrel of a gun. Other than that, nobody wants to change anything.
Well, they don't want to change anything because we don't make them. Ultimately, they're politicians. They don't have firm principles that they stand on. They'll do whatever they have to do to keep their job. And until we decide, unless you balance the budget, you're going to lose your job, they're going to continue this. We're not holding their feet to the fire. I only have so much blame for the politicians themselves because we're not the one. No one gets upset when they don't balance the budget. Even the guys who want government to be smaller. Even the Republicans out there, when government grows, they're like, we'll keep voting the same way. That's fine. We're not gonna change anything. We'll just keep going along with it. We can't vote for the Democrats. They're evil. And so, yeah, and as far as economics goes, which is the most important part of what they do in D.C., there is a uniparty. Now the parties aren't completely the same in all issues. At least we got a closed border. At least our president's somewhat pro-gun. At least they don't think men can have babies. But for the things that affect us, the economy, inflation, a debt deficit, yeah, we do have a uniparty. And until Republican or Democrat voters decide that they're not going to stand for it anymore, we're going to get more of the same, which means it's not really their fault. It's our fault.
Right.
It's our fault that this keeps happening because we keep putting up with this. And thank you very much for your call. Good to hear from you again, Richard and Richardson. In fact, I got a pretty good message on Facebook over here. Cecilia says, I typically don't agree with you, and this may be a cultural bias based on how I grew up, but isn't the humanitarian thing to provide medical care to people who need it? In Mexico, if you're in an accident, the closest hospital is supposed to provide care, and if you can't pay, they can't make you. I know this in Mexico. I'm definitely not pro using my taxpayer money to support illegal activities, but this is definitely something I am conflicted about. Well, let me solve that for you. Yes, it is the humanitarian thing to provide medical care to people who need it, but it doesn't have to go through government. And before we had Medicare and Medicaid, we took care of all this through what? Private voluntary donations. That's why I was born in a Mother Francis hospital. It was backed by the Catholic Church. That's why there's a Presbyterian hospital by my apartment in North Dallas. Or there's so many other, even a secular organizations like the Scottish Rite Hospital or the Shriners Hospital. That's a bunch of Masons, not a religion, just people who private voluntary donations give people free health care without forcing it through the taxpayers, without inflating your currency, without unbalancing the budget, without destroying our fiscal sanity in D.C. Yes, we should give them medical care, but not through the government. We can take care. We'd do better if we went back to taking care of this ourselves. That's what a capitalist system would do, not a socialist system and not this stupid hybrid stuff. 800-288-9227. If you got any comments on the government shutdown. Senators have left town, so breaking news, the shutdown will last until at least Friday, so we'll cheer for it to last as long as possible. I like what I hear about Trump saying if this thing say shutdown, we're going to be laying off a whole bunch of workers. My response is, man, go harder than that. Why not just lay them off now? Why do they have a job to begin with? Why didn't you lay them off yesterday? What are we waiting on to cut the government? A couple of pieces of audio. If you don't understand why I sound so frustrated, I am frustrated. I'm not putting this on. Because in my talk radio career of now 23 years, I have no idea how many shutdown threats and actual shutdowns we've gone through, but every single one of them on the other side has resulted in a bigger government. And I don't understand for the half of the country that professes, if you gave them a survey, would you like government to be smaller? They would say yes, but they don't fight this stuff. Do you fight this stuff? Are you one of them? This is my prediction on the government shutdown last December. Do you remember that one? This is from the James Show, December 20th, 2024. I'll keep an eye on that because there's a terrible precedent of these people. After the James Show ends, it'll be at night. It'll probably be maybe 10 o'clock tonight, maybe 2 in the morning tonight. They'll probably pass something, and it'll stink. And they did. And then they did it again at the end of January. Remember when they had to move the debt ceiling, and it was one of the first things Donald Trump did? And I was having a similar argument. At what point do we put our foot down and say, stop growing government? Cut the damn government. And I had people call in and say, well, James, look, we just got to keep it going here. Trump's got to get a win, and then he can do all these other things, and we'll take care of this later. And, well, here we are later, and you want to do it again? This has been 20 years of this garbage. I got sick of this a long time ago. Why aren't you sick of this? Why do you put up with this? Why does anyone who wants a smaller government put up with this? Another great piece of audio from the audio vault. There was the government shutdown that was happening during Barack Obama. This is a montage that I put together myself back in 2011, so 14 years ago. And tell me if this just isn't some of the same scare tactics. And remember, after all these scare tactics, government comes out bigger on the other side. Your freedom comes out smaller on the other side. Your dollars are getting inflated even harder. The spending power of your savings is getting robbed because this keeps happening over and over and over.
The debt ceiling should not be something that is used as a gun against the heads of the American people.
I've never seen either political party play terrorist with this regard.
It will be much worse than the Great Depression.
It looks like a Satan sandwich.
Satan sandwich with some Satan fries on the side.
They are getting ready to spark panic and chaos, potentially devastating.
The Tea Party is able to take the hostage of the government crashing, the economy crashing, hostage taking.
This Congress has been held hostage.
Republicans, you see, have been on this nonstop 30-year mission to murder the American dream.
Let's at least avert Armageddon.
When you deliberately shoot your own, it's called fragging. Republicans, stop fragging the American economy and the American people.
They're the suicide bombers in all of this.
They want to shoot every bullet they can at the president.
It's
it's like a form of economic terrorism.
This is the functional equivalent of bombing innocent civilians.
If you got kids born right now, do you want them to run around with no shoes, no clothes, and eating off the ground?
Yes, cutting government is just Dante's Inferno. It's Dante's second level of hell, maybe even third. I'm not buying it. I don't think we would collapse if, God forbid, the government got slightly less money next year than they got this year. I'm tired. I can't fall for this over and over. I don't understand how so many people do. I find it one of the great frustrating parts about American politics is both of our parties want to grow government, and we don't have anyone standing up saying, I think we need to make it smaller. Cheryl in Spring, you're on WBAP.
Hey, so I totally agree with you. It's disgusting how the fear-mongering that they do on us every single time. And if we didn't learn anything by all the stuff that DOJ exposed about the filthy waste, I mean, so much millions and billions of dollars in waste, then when are we ever going to learn? And as an example, I'll tell you that you talked about the healthcare thing. This physician told me one time that he had a patient come in from Mexico, and the guy was no insurance, and he goes through this extreme surgery they were going to do on him, and it was an emergency type situation. So he explained everything, and then he asked him, so do you have any questions for me? And he knew the guy was already no insurance. He wasn't intending to pay a nickel. And his question for him was whether or not he was still going to be able to take his cruise in 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's what this situation is full of. I know that's anecdotal, and it is indicative of a larger pattern. I don't see the problem with giving them medical care and just giving them the bill. That's all I'm asking for, and that's what they call taking health care away from someone, is when they get their own bill for their own services that they themselves used. And I go even further than you, Cheryl. It ain't just about waste, fraud, and abuse. And thank you very much for your call. It's not just about cutting out waste and we could balance the budget. No. We need to cut out some of this legit spending that they're doing on purpose. When we talk about like the socialism that's infected our government, more than 70% of the federal budget is on social programs. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, unemployment benefits, SSI, crazy checks. That's more than 70% of what the federal government does. If we just cut out the socialism in D.C., we would not only balance the budget, we'd have a huge surplus, and we could, God forbid, start paying down the debt. Hell, we could have it paid down in just a few years. And, ultimately, when I talk about I want to get rid of taxes as much as possible, I want to get rid of the income tax, people are like, how would you fund the government? Well, how about in the years that we run a big surplus, we do what colleges do. We set that to the side and we have an endowment. And then pretty sure we'll have an endowment that's worth hundreds of billions of dollars, maybe a few $1 trillion. And we could fund the government just from the interest on the endowment that we've left to our kids and grandkids. Wouldn't we be looked at a little better than leaving them $20 or $37 trillion in debt?
The James Show Podcast.